Labour's government is already on the edge of collapse, and at the centre of the storm is none other than Chancellor Rachel Reeves. Her brutal plan to slash £2 billion from the foreign aid budget has ignited chaos within the Labour ranks, threatening to tear the party apart just months after taking power. Foreign Secretary David Lammy is leading the charge against Reeves, and sources say the tension between the Chancellor and the rest of Starmer's cabinet has reached a boiling point. Labour is in turmoil, and the British public is watching, wondering how much longer the party can hold itself together. Before we dive into today's explosive details, make sure to subscribe for more updates on the biggest political stories shaking the UK. Trust me, this is only going to get wilder as the cracks in Labour's unity deepen. This story isn't just a typical budget squabble. It's a full-blown cabinet mutiny with potentially disastrous consequences for Labour's already fragile grip on power. According to sources, secret meetings have been taking place where Labour ministers are fighting back against Reeves's planned cuts, warning of catastrophic damage both to the UK's international standing and the country's most vulnerable communities. For weeks now, tension has been brewing behind the scenes. Labour's frontbenchers, many of whom had previously supported Reeves, are now questioning her ruthless cost-cutting measures. David Lammy, the influential Foreign Secretary, has reportedly voiced his objections in private meetings, demanding more funding for foreign aid to avoid the disastrous fallout these cuts could bring. Reeves, however, seems unshakable. She's adamant that the foreign aid budget needs to be slashed to meet her strict financial targets. Rumour has it she's holding an iron grip on the Treasury, refusing to compromise on what she sees as a necessary step to manage Britain's finances, but in doing so, she's triggering a rebellion that could undermine Starmer's leadership entirely. So what's driving this drastic decision? Insiders say Reeves is desperate to save money after inheriting a massive deficit from the Tories. In her speech at the Labour conference last month, Reeves made it clear, yes, we must deal with the Tory legacy, and that means tough decisions. However, many are now questioning whether these decisions are too tough, too soon, and if Reeves is making the party vulnerable to an implosion from within. Chancellor Reeves is preparing to let the spending on foreign aid fall to just 0.5% of gross national income, GNI, marking the lowest level in 17 years. This comes after her Tory predecessor, Jeremy Hunt, had temporarily raised the aid budget above that level. While some argue that the cuts are necessary to stabilise the economy, critics within Labour say this could be the final nail in the coffin for Britain's reputation on the global stage. Aid organisations across the UK are already up in arms, warning of the devastating consequences these cuts will have on humanitarian efforts worldwide. Even David Miliband, the former Labour MP who now runs a major international charity, has voiced his concerns about the deep reductions in aid funding. But it's not just charity groups who are furious. Many within Labour itself are deeply unhappy, and this dissent is turning into open defiance. In fact, tensions are reportedly so high that ministers have been taking their complaints directly to Darren Jones, the Chief Secretary to the Treasury. High-level meetings have been held over the past week as ministers desperately try to convince Reeves to back down. But so far, the Chancellor remains defiant, even as the health and education departments are being forced to find savings of at least £1 billion each. This, despite ministers vowing there would be no return to austerity under Labour's rule. Reeves seems prepared to weather the storm. In her words, the tough decisions are all part of rebuilding the nation. "I won't let that dim our ambition for Britain," she declared, insisting that this will be a budget to fix the foundations and rebuild Britain. But many within her own party are not convinced. Critics warn that these cuts will only deepen the cracks within Labour, potentially sparking a full-blown civil war within the cabinet and shaking public trust in the party just as it tries to prove its competence. And it's not just ministers who are worried. Leading economists have also warned that Reeves's tough decision rhetoric could have disastrous consequences. Professor Mary Spowage, a respected economist at the University of Strathclyde, has pointed out that Reeves's warnings about upcoming austerity could dent business and consumer confidence, further weakening the UK's already soft economic performance. Could this create a chain reaction that topples Labour before it even begins to enact real change? With the economy stagnating, Reeves's critics argue that cutting aid and other essential services could plunge Britain into deeper trouble. Over the summer, GDP growth flatlined, and experts are warning that the country could be headed for a full-blown recession if the situation isn't handled delicately. Reeves's drastic cuts, they argue, could be the tipping point. And if Labour enters a recession, it's not just Reeves who will face the music, but Starmer's entire government could collapse under the pressure. Meanwhile, Labour's decision to hand back the Chagos Islands to Mauritius has only added fuel to the fire. The controversial move has sparked outrage, with many accusing Starmer of surrendering Britain's overseas territories. Critics argue that the decision was poorly timed and poorly handled, giving the impression that Britain is weak and willing to hand over strategic assets without a fight. Prime Minister Starmer, however, has defended the move, claiming that it was necessary to secure the long-term future of the US-UK military base on Diego Garcia. According to Starmer, this base is the single most important thing, and the agreement ensures that Britain maintains access to this critical facility for years to come. But the decision has not been well received by many within the Conservative Party, with figures like Tom Tugendhat and Nigel Farage slamming the move as a strategic disaster that could embolden Britain's enemies. With these two major controversies unfolding simultaneously, it's no wonder that Labour is on the verge of imploding. Insiders say Starmer is struggling to keep his cabinet in line, with many ministers growing increasingly frustrated with both Reeves and the Prime Minister himself. Some have even started to question Starmer's leadership, wondering if he's really up to the task of steering Labour through these turbulent times. As tensions continue to rise, the question remains, how long can Starmer hold on to power? With key ministers like David Lammy pushing back against Reeves' cuts, and Labour's credibility on the world stage in tatters after the Chagos Islands debacle, it seems that the party is on the brink of a major crisis. Could Labour's own internal conflicts become their undoing, just as they've taken power? Rachel Reeves's iron grip on the Treasury may be enough to get her through the upcoming budget on October 30th, but the backlash she's facing within her own party is only growing stronger by the day. As Labour's internal war rages on, the British public is left wondering, can Starmer and Reeves pull the party back from the brink, or is this the beginning of the end for Labour's fragile reign? Make no mistake, Labour is at a crossroads, and the decisions they make now could determine whether they survive as a government or fall apart under the pressure. Starmer's leadership is under scrutiny, and his handling of this situation could define his legacy. Now let's check out the clip about Ben Habib's scathing comments on Labour's collapse. Make sure to like, comment and subscribe for more updates on this explosive situation. Things are only heating up from here.